Hello everybody, welcome back to
Hi.
our module 3 with Fulvio and myself, Stefan. And we're talking in this module about directory synchronization, DirSync, and Active Directory Federation, ADFS. This fits in as module 3 following our basic user management just before our break. And we put this in context with day 2, as we said before, SSO and deploying DirSync tomorrow. So watch those sessions. So the agenda for this session is partner delegated administrators. Fulvio will walk you through that. There's some demos there. Understanding single sign-on, what's associated with that, as well as understanding more deeply what directory synchronization DirSync is all about.
Perfect.
And from there, go ahead.
Thank you.
You
Thank
take
you.
it away.
Thank you, Stefan. Okay.
Oh, look, overview of administrative roles. We just saw this like the second time in module 2.
Perfect.
So what's up with the admin roles again?
Perfect. There is a why because about this specific table here. That's because we saw in the previous model that we have different administration roles inside Office 365, but there are also additional roles that are reserved to Microsoft partners that want to work and administer their customer subscription. So if I'm a Microsoft partner and I want to administer a customer subscription, I can. Mm-hmm. This is really important because previously it was not so easy and was reserved to particular partners. Now something has changed and is a bit different. So let's have a look to that now. If you are a Microsoft Cloud Accelerate partner, you can offer delegated administration from within your Office 365 tenant. So you can, for example, perform tasks on a customer subscription like adding user, setting password, adding a domain. So all the operation that you normally perform if you are a global admin of an Office 365 subscription. So you can perform all or a subset of the operation inside an Office 365 subscription. You can be an agent admin and have full access to the subscription, or just be an agent at desk admin, so you will be able, for example, to reset just the password for the end user. Is just an example. But keep in mind that you need to be a Microsoft Cloud Accelerate partner. Cloud Essential will not have this specific feature included in the partnership. Okay. Let's have a look to the portal to understand and see together how Microsoft Cloud Accelerate partner can, for example, offer delegated administration to a customer. Okay. So we will see together how a partner can send a delegated administration offer, so the communication in the process, and eventually how to handle a delegated administrator inside my subscription. Okay, in front of you there is the traditional Microsoft Office 365 subscription, but as you can see in the upper part, in the top menu, we have Home, Outlook, Team Site, Admin, that are the regular tabs that we all know inside an Office 365 subscription, but we have also a tab that is called Partner. So if a partner enrolled and completed the requirement to be a Microsoft Cloud partner, will gain access to this particular tab. In this tab, if you are just a Cloud Essential partner, for example, you can offer, for example, an Office 365 subscription to a customer, so build an offer for your customer, is just an example, or you can also send a trial invitation to your customers in general. So you can prepare an offer again with a trial of the Plan P of Office 365 or the Plan A3 of Office 365 and send directly the communication from this portal to one or all your customers from within the portal of Office 365. If you are instead a Microsoft Cloud Accelerate partner, you will get the last area here that I'm underlining. So you can offer delegated administration to your customer. Okay? Let's see together what will happen if I click on Send Delegated Administration Offers. If I click on that link, I will have on my screen a window like the one that is in front of you in the PowerPoint presentation. So a communication that said something like, okay, I'm offering you to be your partner for Office 365 and also to administer your subscription on behalf. So I will work on your subscription to perform admin tasks. Okay, you can customize all the information that are included inside the communication, but please don't change the link, because the link contains all the information that are required to link your you as a partner, a cloud accelerated partner, to the customer subscription. So you can customize the text, the information, the address, everything you want, but not the link. Let's continue. This is the customer side instead. So I received the previous email, I'm the customer, and I just need to click on the link and I will be on this particular side. So I need to log on to my Office 365 subscription, as usual, nothing different here. Go on, so sign in to the subscription to the portal, and then accept that a specific partner will administer my subscription on behalf. So I received a communication from the partner, I clicked on the link, and I'm authorizing him to access to my subscription to perform admin tasks. The partner, when I click on yes, the checkbox with yes, can perform all the operation inside my subscription as an administrator, so can do everything he wants. I can always see inside my subscription if there are any delegated administrators that are administering on behalf my subscription. So here again, I'm the customer and I'm checking if there are delegated administrators that are working on my subscription. This is the page in front of you. What can perform a partner delegated administrator? All the tasks and operation that a regular Office 365 administrator can perform on the portal. So view company and user information, manage support ticket, so open a ticket, for example, directly to Microsoft. I remember to you that tickets that are opened inside Office 365 portal, so using the support tab, are free of charge. So you can open as many tickets as you want without paying. This is really good, because usually you need to pay for an incident if you require technical support inside your company. With Office 365, it's not like that. It's also important to underline that only a single service, like for example Exchange Online, SharePoint, and so on, and plan E1 to E4, have the opportunity to open free ticket. If you are instead a user that is working with a P subscription, you can't contact directly Microsoft using the portal. You need to use the form. So the forum will help you, because there are Microsoft people that is working on the forum and is answering to the question of the customers, but you can't open a ticket directly from the portal. It's important. Okay, let's continue. If you are a partner delegated administrator, you can perform billing and purchasing operation, create and manage user view, create, edit, and delete user group as we did before, manage domain, again, manage the company information, and then also configure the directory synchronization. I'm a partner, I'm working with you, it's normal that maybe I need to work on your infrastructure. So enable directory synchronization, check the status of synchronization and so on. It's okay, makes sense.
Yeah, great.
Okay, in the previous module we discovered together how it's easy to create manually a user inside Office 365. Okay, we saw that on the portal I just need to click on New and create a user. I can also create a security group. Do you know what are a security group, Stefan? I believe yes.
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
Yes.
you should. Security group can help, for example, to simplify user management if you need to assign the same level of permission to a large amount of people in the same company. So you can create a security group, insert or better add different users inside this security group, and then enable this security group to perform some operation, access to a particular portal, for example, perform operation on Exchange, and so on. We can have security groups also in Office 365. We can have a security group in the Office 365 portal, and we can use them for SharePoint Online, Exchange Online, and so on. It's important because, for example, you can have a security group for Exchange Online and configure that security group to perform particular operation inside your Exchange Online environment. So a subset of administrators that can perform specific operation. Or some users that, for example, in SharePoint Online can perform admin operation inside the portal. Just an example.
Right. So you create those either through the portal or again through PowerShell.
Yeah, perfect. Again, wow, you're a master of Office 365 now.
I'm a scripting person.
Fantastic. So let's see together how it's easy to create a security group using again the portal of Office 365. So again, I'm on portal.microsoftonline.com. I log on to the regular site, again, as an administrator. Okay, I'm inside. I've been recognized again as admin, so I can perform admin task. In this case, I'll go to security group in management, and I'll hit new. I select new. Choose a name of the security group.
Security group.
Yeah.
Let's call them Jumpstart.
Jumpstart. I like it. Okay. No description. We don't need it.
Not required?
Not required. We can, but... Okay, the name of the security group will be Jumpstart, save. And I need to add the users that will be part of the security group. So, for example, Stefano.
Yes, please.
Okay, and Fulvio. We are part of the Jumpstart, so... Okay. Please remember that you need to click not save and close here, but add before. Because users should appear on the right side of the selected member area.
What would happen if you would start save and close before you add anybody, so it's an empty group?
Perfect. Perfect. This is a common error. You create a group that is empty. There is no one inside.
So it would not warn you or give you an error message?
No, nothing.
All
you
right.
create because you can also create a group that is empty. I don't know why, but it's possible.
And you can add users later, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe that's so. You create it and
that's
add the users later.
what we will do now. Okay,
Right.
so we just added our users to the security group. Okay, and then save and close. It's easy. We have our security group that is called Jumpstart with Fulvio and Stefan inside. Perfect. I will create again another group now. Let's call it Jumpstart 2, for example. Okay, I save it.
Very creative. Yep.
Okay, yeah, very creative. And I will just hit save and close. No users inside. Okay, this is an empty group, as you said before. What I want to show you is that if I open again the previous security group, so Jumpstart, I have the opportunity to select all the users, okay, but also groups. So I can nest security groups one inside the other. So, for example, I will nest Jumpstart 2 inside Jumpstart. So all the users that are part of Jumpstart 2 will be part of Jumpstart. It's interesting.
Yep.
Okay, if you later, not now, will implement directory synchronization and you have security groups inside your Active Directory, inside your environment, for example, DirSync will also sync security group. So not only users, but also security groups. This is important.
Great.
Nice also. Also because you don't need to recreate everything. Okay? Make sense?
Yes, yes. That answers a question we had also on the Q&A before.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, let's continue. So, until now we focused on the cloud identity. So we discovered how it's easy to create a user, manage user, assign a license, create a security group, for example. But all on the Microsoft Office 365 admin portal. Nothing that is related with the on-premise infrastructure. What we are going to discover now is the next steps. So we will start to understand now DirSync and also single sign-on. So we will learn together requirement, when to implement DirSync, when is the best option, the best idea, when is not the best idea, and why ADFS and single sign-on are so important. Do you have an idea, for example, Stefan, because ADFS and single sign-on are so important in general? Did you receive any request from your customers?
Well, every customer wants to standardize on one identity, obviously, because it saves a lot of money, because going back to passwords, the biggest support question is, I forgot my password, because I have to maintain 15.
Most of the cases related to Office 365 were related to, I lost my password.
Yeah, reset my password.
As we said before.
Narrowing it down to one identity, and that is a secure one that you can use across all your environments. That is a big goal for most of the customers I've been talking to.
Yeah, this is really important, and we will learn why it's better in some cases implement ADFS and why not. Because there are also cases when it's not a so good idea to implement ADFS inside an organization. For example, when we will talk later about ADFS, single sign-on and so on, we will learn that to enable single sign-on, ADFS and so on, we will need to deploy possible additional servers inside our organization. I need to be a good company to be able to maintain this additional server, because one of the important things related to single sign-on and ADFS is that, okay, I will build the ADFS infrastructure inside my company, but what will happen if my servers that will manage ADFS will go down?
Yeah, what will happen?
It's terrible. It's terrible because I created a fantastic infrastructure, but all my users, if my ADFS infrastructure is not available at the moment because maybe we had a problem with the server, with the software, with the network connectivity, if I enable and activated ADFS single sign-on between my infrastructure and Office 365, if my infrastructure is not available, all the user will not be able to access to Office 365.
So no access at all?
No access at all, because Office 365 will not be able to validate the credential.
That's a mission-critical service then,
in
this case.
So if you are a company and you want all the advantages that are included in single sign-on, you should be ready to afford the cost of additional service and high availability. Because if not, we have a problem. Okay?
Yeah.
Let's continue. Understanding single sign-on. So let's start exploring ADFS, single sign-on, and what is needed to enable credential sharing and access between on-premise environment and Office 365. Okay, what is the main purpose of single sign-on? As we said before, single sign-on enables user to access to the on-premise system, but also to Office 365 using the same username, so for example Fulvius is an example, and the same password that I have inside my Active Directory. Okay. My user is also used to access to a system using his credentials, so his username, his password, nothing more to learn. Nothing. I'm used to access to a new service, but with my old credential. It's easy. Again, another great feature that is provided by the single sign-on and ADFS in particular is related to password management, because as we said, passwords are maintained and managed inside our Active Directory. Okay, and if I'm an administrator of the on-premise Active Directory, I can set all the password policies. So password expiration, no password expiration, when a user needs to change the password, and if this particular user doesn't need to change the password, for example. I can enable two-factor authentication also. Are just options. Many advantages here. So many benefits also, like policy control, access control, as you said, reduce support calls, because Stefan will never call me telling me, okay, I forgot the password. This will never happen because it's the same password that you use when you log on to your PC. Okay. Also security, because one of the benefits that are included inside the ADFS infrastructure is that you can define which user can access to Office 365 services and also from where. So you can set, for example, that users that are outside the company can't access to Office 365. Outside, I mean out of the building of the company. So not using a machine that is joined to the company Active Directory. It's just one of the examples. Or better, I can also configure ADFS to deny access from mobile devices. It's just another example. So I can access to the services using the portal, using OWA, for example, but not using my phone for security reasons, for example. Okay. What are the single sign-on server requirements? Here is not so difficult, no big hardware here or big hardware requirements. We just need a Windows Server 2008 or 2008 R2. We need to install PowerShell, IIS, .NET 3.5 Service Pack 1, Windows Identity Foundation, and we need a domain that is a public domain, like the Microsoft.com that we used before. So a public domain. ADFS will not work, and we will speak more about that tomorrow, in the session of tomorrow. We'll need to work with a public domain. You can't work with ADFS if you have an AD domain like contoso.local or contoso.loc. You need to have contoso.net, contoso.com, and so on. We will go deeper here tomorrow in a dedicated session, speaking about this particular configuration and also how to handle that. Then, we need a SSL certificate. Yes, we need a public, again I repeat, public SSL certificate to enable a secure communication between your own environment, your on-premise environment, and the Office 365 authorization infrastructure. So all the communication between your on-premise environment and the Office 365 environment will be secured using a public SSL certificate. We will discover tomorrow that in the first module of tomorrow that we will use different SSL certificates for Office 365, for ADFS, for Exchange if you want to enable a coexistence or an hybrid coexistence, and so on. A suggestion here could be to buy or a wildcard certificate or a SAN certificate. So we can have multiple names inside the same certificate. So I buy just one certificate, I can use it for different environment, not only the ADFS but also Exchange, for example, and so on.
On the topic of SSL, let me inject this because there are quite a few questions. Going back to the P plan, we know in the P plan we have SSL, HTTPS on Exchange, but we don't have Exchange online in the browser, but we don't have it for SharePoint. How does it play out here for the P plan?
P plan here
does not apply.
Does not apply just because P plan doesn't have nothing to do with single sign-on ADFS or DirSync. P plan has been created to work as a standalone solution, no integration at all with Active Directory. So
back to the cloud identity, right? The cloud identity is for the P plan.
It's better to underline. So P plan, cloud identity stop. First option. Make sense? So you have 50 users in plan P. 50. Okay, you will need also to install Microsoft Online Services module for Windows PowerShell to communicate between the ADFS system and also the Microsoft Online system. As we said before, when you want to deploy an ADFS infrastructure, you need to start thinking about a possible high availability design, because when you enable and start working with ADFS, sorry, your system must be in a high availability situation, so it can't go down, because if not, your users will not be able to access anymore to Office 365. Okay, this is really, really important. This is a commitment. If you want to use ADFS, be ready to that. If I'm an end user this time and I want to access to the portal of Office 365, OWA, SharePoint Online, and so on, I need to use one of these browsers. So Internet Explorer 7 or later, Firefox 3 or later, Chrome 6 or later, Safari, and also I can use single sign-on with applications like Microsoft Office 2010, 2007, Service Pack 2, Office for Mac 2011, Microsoft Office 2008 for Mac, and also is strongly suggested to use and prepare your desktop, as we said before, using the Office 365 desktop setup that will also install the Microsoft Online Sign-in Assistant that will help your client to access to Office 365 infrastructure, so the portal, OWA, Exchange, SharePoint, using single sign-on. This is a requirement this time. So if you want that your client gain access to Office 365 using ADFS, not only using the browser, so using an application, you will need to use the Office 365 desktop setup to prepare the desktop to access to Office 365. Is really, really important. What does do the desktop setup? One of the important operations that it performs is to configure Internet Explorer and rich client like Outlook, like Lync, to work with ADFS, single sign-on, and Office 365. So the Office desktop setup, again, is a requirement to work with single sign-on and using my client and my Office application. Okay. Let's continue. For the requirement for the single sign-on, as we said, we need Microsoft Online Sign-in Assistant that is included and installed by the Office desktop setup. I can install it using the Office 365 desktop setup or also manually. As we said before, we can also prepare our desktops using a manual procedure, manual operation, installing all the required updates that are needed to work with Office 365. What else? Okay, one of the requirements for single sign-on will be also the DirSync. So ADFS before and then DirSync. Let's see in a higher level view of the ADFS infrastructure in this slide. We have three different approaches here. The first one is the one in front of you. We have a single server configuration. This is not a suggested configuration, just because, as we said, if this server has problem, all your users inside the on-premise infrastructure will not be able to access to Office 365. This is just for, let me say, test purposes or just to see how ADFS 2.0 works. Nothing else, not for production environments. What else? We should at least provide two servers inside our organization. These servers are balanced using a Windows network load balancing, for example, so a network load balancing service that is included in Windows, or also using an hardware network load balancer. So the internal user, for example, is inside my company, inside my domain, and need to access to Office 365. He will connect to the network load balancer. The network load balancer will route the communication from the network load balancer to one of the two ADFS servers, will check the credential with the Active Directory, and will eventually enable the internal user to access to the Office 365 infrastructure. So that's why we need to have a network load balancer here. If this server goes down, for example, the user could still access to our Office 365 infrastructure using the other server. This is a typical infrastructure for the internal network. So we are speaking about the on-premise system, but the internal network. If I want to provide access to users that are out or outside from my company, so users that are working from home, for example, are using ActiveSync, are using clients with Outlook Anywhere, just for example, I need to extend my ADFS infrastructure and configuration to support and publish also my Active Directory in some way to the external. So, like the slide that is in front of you, the schema that is in front of you, we have in this case an external user here that will need to access to Office 365, but to access to Office 365, the external user need to validate his credential using the Active Directory. So we will use the ADFS proxy server. That is another role that is included inside the ADFS infrastructure. So external user will pass the first, let me say, the first firewall here, will access to the network load balancer as here, will be routed to one of the two ADFS server proxy. There will be a SSL communication here through the 443 port. The communication will be routed again here to the network load balancer, and the communication will be routed again to one of the two ADFS servers that are inside the corp network. Then the user will be able to access to Office 365 because his credential has been passed from the external firewall and system through inside the company, validated using Active Directory, and then if the credentials are valid, are okay, the external user can access to Office 365 from outside the company. We are using the ADFS 2.0 server proxy because we don't want to publish directly our Active Directory outside the company. The ADFS 2.0 server proxy will be placed outside the company network in a DMZ zone that will not have any access, any direct access to the Active Directory. So this is really important. We can eventually replace ADFS 2.0 server proxy with UAG or TMG, or something like can perform reverse proxy. So the user will arrive here. Here we will have a reverse proxy action performed by ADFS proxy or UAG or TMG, and the user will be able to access to the Office 365 services in general. Let's see the result of ADFS component in action. So I implemented ADFS inside my company, and I want to see how an end user from outside my company can access to Office 365 portal and services using ADFS and single sign-on. So what I want to do now is just to log off from the portal. It's normal. Let me reopen Internet Explorer. Wow. Give me a second. Let's log on again to the portal. Okay. Let's now log in to Office 365 using a user that is enabled to access to Office 365 and his infrastructure is using ADFS and single sign-on. So all the servers that we saw in the last slide, in the last infrastructure planning, are already in place. So in this case, give me a second. Voila. Voila. Okay, this is a regular user, as you can see, username at domain, nothing particular, but...
Oh, happened there.
Yeah.
Grayed out your password.
Yeah, we established before trust between our on-premise environment and the Office 365 environment. We enabled ADFS system between the two environments, and then if I want to access with this particular user to Office 365, I need to log on to my local, or better, on-premise Active Directory before to access to the service. Oh. This is fantastic because when I just type the name of the domain, so gpsdemo.net, the system, or better, Office 365, recognizes that there is a trust between, let me say, yes, a trust between our on-premise environment and Office 365. So is already ready to ask me to connect directly to my system. Okay, We will stop here for what is about ADFS, because I want to start speaking now about directory synchronization, because one of the components that is required to work with ADFS is also directory synchronization. As you can see here inside the table, ADFS requires DirSync to work. So we are speaking about this particular column here this time. So synchronization between local users and online users. What is DirSync? DirSync is a Microsoft application. This is a free Microsoft application, nothing to pay, okay, that synchronizes on-premise Active Directory with Office 365. So it will gain access to all the users that are inside your forest, underline forest here, because DirSync will work only on a single forest, will not support multi-forest environments at the moment. Okay, this is a general question that we receive during the deployment, during the workshop, webcast, and so on. Actually, single forest. In the future, we are working on that. Okay.
Great.
What else? DirSync is actually available in two versions, 64 and 32-bit version. Until November was only available the 32 version of DirSync that was based upon ELM 2007, Identity Lifecycle Manager 2007. The new version of DirSync is based instead on FIM, Forefront Identity Manager 2010. That is the new version of ELM and is a 64-bit version of ELM. When you install DirSync on your server, DirSync will install also SQL Server Express Edition to manage the users that will be synchronized between the local Active Directory and the Office 365 infrastructure. So users will be copied before from the Active Directory to the SQL Server, and from the SQL Server to the Office 365 infrastructure. This is a good software because it's been designed as to be an appliance. So configure it with two credentials, and it should work without any other operation for all the time we need. Again, when we want to implement DirSync, this should be a long-term engagement with Office 365 and your Active Directory synchronization. You can't just use DirSync to perform a one-time synchronization between your on-premise environment and Office 365. Synchronization should happen every 3 hours, more or less, between your on-premise environment and Office 365. You can't use it just as we did before for CSV file. So one sync to have all the users on Office 365, but the synchronization should happen many times during the day. Okay? Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Computer requirement for the computer that we will run DirSync. The computer must be joined to an Active Directory domain in the same forest that will be synchronized with Office 365. Again, DirSync will sync the whole forest, not a single child domain, not a single domain. We will find all the users that are inside the forest synchronized from our local Active Directory to Office 365. The computer, the server that will run DirSync cannot be a domain controller. A general question that I receive here is that if I can use Office 365 with Small Business Server 2008, 2011, 2008 and a newer version. Yes, I can, but I need to install DirSync on a different server, not on the SBS itself, because it's a domain controller. This is really important. So no domain controller for DirSync. We not install at all.
Is any other member server okay?
Perfect.
Okay.
Would be perfectly okay. So, for example, if you use SBS 2008 or 2011 professional, for example, that has the second server. That second server is perfect.
Exchange server itself?
Exchange server itself could be. No problem.
Probably not advisable.
Yeah, but I saw something like that in previous deployment. Could be.
Happens.
Yeah,
Good.
if you have the premium edition of SPS, the second server is perfect. It's a regular Windows 2008 server, R2, no problem at all. Computer, the server that will run DirSync should be located inside the corporate networks, because it needs to communicate with your Active Directory, and will need also to communicate to the Office 365 infrastructure. So we need to have a bi-directional communication between Active Directory and Office 365. Another really important information here is that usually DirSync perform just a one-way synchronization. So when you create a user inside your Active Directory, this user will be created to the inside the Office 365 subscription, not the opposite. So you can't perform a write-back operation usually using DirSync. DirSync just write to Office 365, not the opposite. Okay? Software requirement for DirSync, again here it's really easy. We have Windows Installer 4.5 or later, Windows PowerShell version 2 or later, Windows.NET Framework version 3.5 or later, Windows Server 2003 R2 with Service Pack 2 or later, or Windows Server 2008 32-bit with the latest Service Pack installed. Also, as we said, exists also the 64 version of DirSync that is available for Windows Server 2008. What else? Let me think if there is something else that is important related to DirSync. Okay, when you are planning to deploy DirSync inside your organization, this machine, this particular server, can have a really low amount of memory. We are talking about of RAM to handle the DirSync service. So DirSync is a good candidate for virtualization. So lower memory, lower CPU utilization, but be careful about SQL, because the storage that will be used by SQL Server 2008 Express will be a lot, because DirSync, to handle many users, will need to sync users from your Active Directory to SQL before, and then from SQL to Office 365. The SQL database will grow a lot. So please plan a good amount of space on the DirSync server if you want to enable it.
So on the last point here, the Microsoft Online Services Sign-in Assistant, isn't that legacy from the BPOS times, or? Yeah,
it's something different. It's something different. We don't need to think that Microsoft Online Server Sign-in Assistant is the same that was included in BPOS. The one that was included in BPOS was something that was enabling something like single sign-on, but using a client. That was called Sign-in Assistant in BPOS. Here, this particular Sign-in Assistant is something that helps the client desktop to access to Office 365. But it's not the same Sign-in Assistant. This one is a service. That one was a client.
Excellent. Yeah. Thanks for making the differentiation there.
Okay. Let's see where to download DirSync and how to activate DirSync in the panel. So again, let's access to our Office 365 subscription. Few seconds. Okay, I'm logging in again as an administrator. So full user Nitro, admin. I have access to the admin panel to manage my Office 365 subscription. If I go to the Users tab here, I will have, as we saw before, the User Management area. On the top part of the User Management area, there are options to enable, or better, to start downloading all the components that are required to enable DirSync and ADFS. Let's start with DirSync before. We just need to click Setup here and activate directory synchronization or better DirSync between our environment and Office 365. Be careful, because when you click on Activate here, it can take up to 3 hours to be ready to work. So if you are working with a customer and you plan to enable directory synchronization, please perform this step before working directly on the customer side. Okay, so you need to activate directory synchronization and then download the version that you need for the DirSync tool. We have, as we said, the 32-bit version and the 74-bit version. It's something like 50, more or less, megabyte to download. It's really fast. When you will install DirSync, it could take something like 20 minutes, more or less, because he also needs to verify all the requirements, install SQL Express, and this could take some time. And when you will configure directory synchronization tool, you will need then to provide credentials for your local Active Directory and credentials for your Office 365 environment, because the system, the tool, needs to perform operation on your local Active Directory, read operation, and write operation on your Office 365 infrastructure. Well, that's all for this particular session about user management, DirSync, ADFS. Again, I'm suggesting you to attend the 4 modules that are planned for today to have the big picture of directory synchronization, single sign-on, and network and environment preparation to be ready for single sign-on and ADFS. Tomorrow, we will understand how to plan, configure, and set up ADFS and single sign-on in all the 4 modules. Okay.
And with that, thank you for all of you. We're going to take a 1-hour meal break, coming back this afternoon with administering Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, and Lync Online, starting out with Exchange Online, bringing back Jinkia. And thank you so much. And that's it for Model 3.
See you later.